Hello. So today I'm just gonna jump straight into it. Love is Blind episode 2. So this episode was really good. We finally saw Lauren and Cameron come together, so they finally got to see each other after proposing to each other and becoming engaged. They finally got to see each other, and Lauren voiced her concerns that she had of, like, what struggles they might have on the outside because, he is Caucasian and she is African American, which, I want to see I'm curious to see how they'll approach it. So, that's going to be, exciting to see. And not only that, but, they looked really cute together, and they both were genuinely attracted to each other, which I thought was really good, which I kind of figured. They liked each other so much where I felt like they're both pretty good looking people, so I was almost certain that they were going to be attracted to each other. But it was just, reassuring to see that they both did look at each other, finally see each other, and, they liked each other a lot. Carlton also proposed to Diamond this episode, and he did not tell her his secret. So honestly, I think that he is starting off on a bad foot with this. This is probably gonna end up leading out to something not so good. They're probably gonna end up arguing, or who knows what's gonna happen. But I definitely do think it is something that he should have addressed, or at least mentioned to her, before he got on one knee and proposed to her. But we'll see what happens. We also finally got to see a couple of the other couples. So we saw Kenny and Kelly for the first time, who bonded over struggles that they both kind of went through. Apparently they both struggled with bullying in high school, and they seemed to really connect with how they both dealt with it and whatnot. And they seem to have really good communication together. So they also ended up together being engaged by the end of this episode. They got to see each other, and they looked like, basically they liked each other, and there was really good chemistry there. So I was happy for them. But the cringiest part of this episode would have had to have been Jessica and her flip-flopping with Mark. So Jessica, we see, who had talked to Barnett and had told him that she would break off whatever other ties she had to anybody else she was speaking to. And so she did go ahead and go to Mark, and she spoke with Mark, who was very upset, obviously, by her saying that she was having stronger feelings towards someone else, and she was confused, and she even threatened to walk away, which I thought was really weird. But she basically put all of her eggs in one basket. She ended up telling Mark, how she felt, and then later on in the episode, we see her go and talk to Barnett, and she asked him in a game of Truth or Dare, is he still having the same feelings that he had the night before? And he told her no. Jessica was obviously very upset by this. She told him that he was playing games, and that she couldn't believe, it was, I saw this coming. She should have just stuck with Mark. Her and Mark had a really good connection. Not like a couple anyways. I didn't see where, I know it was the age gap. That's why she was leaning more towards Barnett, maybe, because she was a little bit more comfortable with it. But I did not see that ending well, and she should have just stuck with Mark. And so, we did get to see a little bit of trash talking in this episode, because as soon as she left the pod after talking to Barnett, and having hashed it out with him after, he told her basically that he was still considering 2 other women, that he wasn't actually sure that he wanted to be engaged or married to her, that she would just remove herself from the situation, and she was no longer interested in him, and basically it wasn't happening. And when she approaches the other girls, she goes on to tell them that they should be careful of Barnett and that he is a fuck boy and that he cannot be trusted. And neither of the girls listened to him. They both seemed pretty confident, especially Amber. We saw how Amber was extremely confident. She was like, he probably said it in a joking manner, and, you know, she probably took it seriously. And I feel like that could have went a little bit of both ways. He did say it in a serious note, to whereas I could see why Jessica picked it up that way. But Amber is right. You can't really take stock much in what he says because she knew he was talking to, like, you know, the other two girls. Even though he said that, you know, with the other girls still talking about how happy and what serious talks they were having with him, she should have known that he had not cut off the other women, and that also he was not all in and as serious. He even went on to say, like, they hadn't had as serious talks as he had had with Amber or Elsie, so that right there should have, you know, kind of been, like, a red flag or, like, something to step back from. But obviously she ends up going back to Mark, and she tried to apologize to him. And I was very shocked to see that Mark actually took her back, and he said that he understood what she was going through, which I was really shocked by. I would not have. I didn't agree with it at all. Mark seems like a really good guy, and I feel like Jessica was ready to drop him at the drop of a coin. And so I felt like he should have ended the relationship with her. I don't feel like it's going to start on the right foot, and I feel like it's not going to progress as well as they might have had she had just, you know, stick with him and tried not to pursue Barnett so strongly. Maybe they would have been a little better, but we'll see what happens. They had a strong connection. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll pick up and, you know, they'll be back to where they used to be, and maybe this was a eye-opener for her to which she should really be looking for in this competition. Giannina and Damien. She is a contestant from, I believe she said she was from Venezuela, and she just kind of voiced, like, you know, how she felt and how she was also bullied and kind of picked on in a kind of in a similar way of how basically Kenny and Kelly connected. We kind of saw a similar dynamic with Giannina and Damien. They both have, you know, their flaws, and they seem to have really connected emotionally because they understood each other's struggles and kind of the things that each other have gone through. And they seem to have really connected in just this one episode, obviously, because they ended up engaged by the end of it. And I guess they were a pretty cute couple. I felt like a lot of the other couples that they inserted into this episode might have been kind of rushed, because we didn't really see too many of these interactions in the first episode. We kind of saw, you know, just the same three, and now that those are out of the way, we have another three, but they're not as, how do I say, we didn't get to see as much development with these couples. We didn't get to see as many of their conversations. We basically saw them meet, connect a little bit, and then they instantly kind of got proposed. So we'll see how that works out and how that develops further into the next episode. I'm curious to see who Barnett's going to end up picking, since obviously Jessica is now, you know, off the table. That only leaves him with Elsie and Amber, and he has talked quite a bit about how much of a connection he has with Amber, and also having a connection with Elsie, but just not quite sure which one he is leaning towards more, because he fears losing the burn or whatnot going further on into the relationships or the marriages. So I could see him picking Elsie. I mean, they're pretty, she seems to be very humble, and, maybe that's something he needs, kind of, how there's one very strong personality and one person's more mellow, and they just kind of balance each other out. I feel like that's what we're gonna see here. So maybe I wouldn't be surprised if he did end up picking Amber, though, because they both have, I would say, kind of like a similar sense of humor. It's kind of like, he mentioned that they're both very similar, and how he has to decide if he basically wants to marry himself, which I thought was pretty funny. So we'll see. That's gonna be the big thing with the next episode, is seeing who Barnett picks, and if Carlton is finally gonna have a serious conversation with Diamond, or even if he's gonna have it at all, because at this point they're engaged and he hasn't said anything. He probably won't say anything until maybe, later on in the season, because how can you get ready to get married to someone without having such an important conversation? I don't know, but very excited to see how that goes. So I will watch the next episode, and I will be back again.